Shabbat Shalom, L'chaim L'chaim. This week's Torah portion is Korach. It is essentially about this man named Korach, a great tzaddik, who got together a community of about 250 men to go and oppose Moshe and Aaron's positions in the community. He said, Moshe, you've chosen your position as the king, and you've chosen the kahuna for your brother Aaron, but we all heard Hashem speak at Mount Sinai. We're all a holy nation, so why do you guys elevate yourselves above the rest of us? And he challenged Moshe. He dressed all his men in techelet garments. And he said, if we're wearing purely techelet garments, do we still need to wear a string, the tzitzit, with techelet on it? And Moshe asked Hashem, and he said, yes, you do. And they all laughed at him and mocked him. And the way the story goes is that eventually Korach and some of his assembly, Datan and Aviram, are swallowed up by the earth. Others of them who offered up an incense were all taken out in a plague, a fire. And the story continues, and at the very end there's this offering. Hashem talks about the offerings in the Torah, and the way I want to introduce this idea is about something a friend of mine once said to me. We were walking in New York, and on this particular night you could see a lot of stars up in the sky, which is quite unique because of how much light pollution there is. And so I said, wow, look at all the stars up in the sky, how nice. And he said, Tal, stop it, I don't like to feel small. And it was so shocking to me because I look up in the sky and I love that feeling of seeing something greater than me. But I realize that not everyone likes that. Some people don't want to remember that they are small. They like to think of themselves as big. And that is what I believe Korach's issue was. Korach saw two great people, Moshe and Aaron, and he said, I don't want to be reminded that I'm small, that I'm not on their stature. I'm big, I'm bigger, I'm just like them. I can be just like them. Which, if you look at that in itself, it should be a holy thing, to say there's no limit to what we can accomplish. But the way he went about it was wrong. He said, I'm going to go and I'm going to achieve that. And what did he do? He said, I'm going to dress myself in all techelet. What is the idea of techelet? Techelet, the way the sages say it in the Gemara, is that it reminds you of the sea, which reminds you of the sky, which reminds you of the Kisei HaKavod, Hashem's throne. And it's true, because when you look at your techelet, it reminds you of the sky and the sea, and that Hashem is Malchut, He is this king. And Korach was saying, I'm going to wear all techelet. I am the king. I am just as holy as anything in this world. I saw God. And that was gaiva, that was arrogance. So he's not approaching it with the proper understanding of I'm aspiring to be better. He's approaching it, excuse me, he was approaching it with arrogance. And that's where his downfall came. And I heard this beautiful teaching by Rav Asher Sinclair, who was basically saying he had such an appetite for glory, for honor, for kavod, that his appetite consumed him. His goal was to become the greatest, to become, the high priest himself. And because of that, the earth swallowed him up. And it's a nice little parallel there. So the message that I'd really wanted to give across with that understanding is we should not be over-consumed with our desires. We should not be, we should always remember the Kisei HaKavod. We should always remember that Hashem is the ultimate king. And while we should aspire to be greater, we should not let it consume us and think that we can be like Hashem, that we could be, God. The other little teaching that I want to really quick give was from the Baal Shem Tov. And he mentions Korach in the same breath as an Ezer Kenegdo. And I love that idea. Because typically in the Torah, we think of an Ezer Kenegdo as a spouse, like Hashem is giving you a spouse to be a helper against you. That while they're going to help you and love you and be there for you, they're also going to be against you at times, and it's going to push you to be better. But Korach was not Moshe's spouse. He was just another person in the community. So what does that tell us? There are other people in the world, people that we'll see, will come across at work, will come across through our daily, days at the shop, that are going to be against us. We need to remember that they're Ezer Kenegdo. They're helpers against us. Even those people are there to help us be better. Maybe to practice better midos, to not get angry all the time. Maybe it's to practice positive thinking, to reframe situations and to think positively. But Korach was that to Moshe and Aaron. He was an Ezer Kenegdo. He served to help them and the whole community see what is right and what is wrong, and how can we be better in this way. So, Shabbat Shalom, we should always remember that everyone in this world is an Ezer Kenegdo. Everyone can help us in many ways, both the positive and the negative. We should also remember that Hashem is the king, and that while it is great to aspire for greatness, we should never think that we could be Hashem, we could be the king. We should not get too gaivadik, too much arrogance. So, Shabbat Shalom.